Hello everyone and welcome to this Amicus Next Free Training Thursdays webinar, Harness the Power of Amicus Attorneys Document Assembly. My name is Chris Tober and I'm a software trainer here at Amicus Next. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a quick housekeeping item. Because of the number of people on this webinar, all attendees are muted upon entry. If you have any questions for me during this session, please submit them using the question feature in the GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen. If we run out of time and there are any remaining questions that have not been addressed, we will respond to these via email. And with that, let's get started. Again, the title of today's webinar is Harnessing Amicus Attorneys Document Assembly Functionality. Real quick before we get into it, in terms of what document assembly is, essentially it allows you to pull information out of Amicus Attorney and put them into a preset or pre-made document template. Now, this functionality works with both Word or WordPerfect. Today, we will be using Word. However, the procedures and functionalities are very similar, so not to worry if you are in fact using WordPerfect. These templates can be created by anyone and can be used by everyone. So you do not need to be an Amicus administrator to either create the Amicus document assembly templates, nor do you need to be an Amicus administrator to use them. Templates are created in their respective word processor. So a lot of what we're going to be doing today is actually going to be taking place in Word. Again, if you are using WordPerfect, not to worry, the procedures are very similar. However, if this is the first time you are using document assembly or you are new to Amicus Attorney, or in the sense that your workstation is brand new, you may need to do a little bit of setup beforehand, and that's where we'll get started. So here we are, we're working today in Bobby O'Donnell's training office. Just a quick FYI, Bobby is an Amicus administrator. Again, you do not need to be an Amicus administrator to do any of the work that we're going to be doing today. And as well, Bobby's firm is using Amicus billing. So my screen might look slightly different from your own. As I said, there is some setup that is required beforehand, and this is done on the workstation level. So each workstation does need to be configured appropriately in order for document assembly to work. So our first stop today is in our preferences. And in preferences, we're going to go to document assembly. And setting up document assembly is a 4-step process. Luckily, however, step 1 is fairly straightforward. You're going to determine whether or not you're going to be primarily using Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or HotDocs. As I said, today we're using Word, but if your firm uses either WordPerfect or HotDocs, you can use those. Just a quick FYI as well. If you have multiple word processors, i.e. you have both Word and WordPerfect, you can absolutely use both of those. However, Amicus needs to know what your primary word processor is. So even if I select Word as my primary, I still do have the option to author and generate document assembly templates in WordPerfect. Having done that, step 2 is where we're going to go ahead and install the toolbars or tool ribbons. This will allow us to craft our templates in our respective word processors. You can see my button says uninstall, which means that I've already installed my tool ribbon. If your button says install, go ahead and click that. It's just a 2-minute process to get that installed. And you do not need an IT person. It's basically just click next, next, next. Step 3 is a bit more nuanced. You do need to tell Amicus where the executable for your word processors reside. And of course, everyone's workstation being different, you'll need to click Browse and browse to the appropriate folder. Typically, it's going to be under Program Files x86 for a 32-bit version of Microsoft Office. And within that, you'll probably find Office 16, for example, if you're using Office 2016. And if you scroll down, the executable that we're looking for is right here, winword.exe. Once you've told Amicus where the executable resides, there's a further install that needs to be done. Again, a very short install. As you can see here, my button says remove, and that's because I've already installed it. If your button says install, go ahead and click that once you've told Amicus where the word processor executable resides. Finally, step 4, this will actually probably already be filled in for you. We do not recommend changing step 4. That's where you specify the path to all of your document assembly templates. Now, because everyone is ostensibly going to be using these templates, we need to ensure that they are on the server or in an area where everyone at the firm has access to. Again, typically the server. This will already be put in for you. And as I said, we do not recommend changing that because, as I said, you do want to ensure that all of your templates are accessible to everyone. And that takes care of the initial setup. And let's go ahead and get started. Now, probably a good idea to first look at what a document assembly template might look like. Out of the box, Amicus comes with a number of templates, and I'm actually going to go to our people module. You can generate documents for either people and or files. So you can choose between the two. In this case, we're going to generate a document from people. And the easiest way to do it is simply just select the person in your people module that you're looking to generate the document for. I'm going to use Janet Bailey here as an example. And the easiest way is simply just selecting that person, selecting right-clicking on that person rather, and then clicking or selecting Generate Document. You also have a button at the top here for Generate Document, and if you go to Actions, you can generate a document, or you can just simply hit Control-D when you're selecting either a contact or a file. In this case, I'm going to right-click again on Janet and select Generate Document. Before we generate the document, we do need to tell Amicus what template we're going to be using. Out of the box, Amicus comes with a number of templates, and these templates can be customized, or you can create brand new templates, both of which we're going to be doing today. But let's just use a pre-existing template. Templates are organized by template group, as you can see here, and we're going to look under letters, blank letter, and you'll notice that in parentheses we have Word, so we know that this is a Word template. But my firm also uses WordPerfect for different reasons, and so we also have the same template for WordPerfect. Select OK. And you can see Microsoft Word is opening all on its own, and that's because we told Amicus where that executable is. And we'll go ahead and click Cancel here, and here we have a generated document or document assembly template document. We have our firm's letterhead at the top. We have Janet Bailey's contact information as well as her salutation. We have Janet's file put in here, the Janet Bailey v. First Edition file, as well as the responsible lawyer on that file, as well as the file number and the date. So this is a generated document, which means I'm free to make any changes or make any additions. In this case, we're going to type in the body of our letter. And then, of course, we can print it off. We can save it as a document and send it off, whatever we need to do. But hopefully you can see basically with just a few quick clicks, we generated a document and we put in all of that information from Amicus into that Word document, specifically the client's information, the client's file, as well as incidental information that goes along with it. And the same procedure can be repeated in the Files module. So if I go into the Files, right-click on Janet's file here and select Generate Document, I can basically recreate that exact same letter, provided, of course, I choose the right category here. And we have the exact same letter being generated for Janet. Now that we've generated some documents, let's go ahead and look at how to create these document templates. As I said before, you do not need to be an Amicus administrator to create these templates. We are going to start over here in the top left in your navigation panel under Merge Templates. Here we have the same document template groups, and I can expand on those and I can look at, again, these are the templates that come with Amicus Attorney. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a new group, and I'll call this Temp Training. And while selecting the document group, I'm going to go ahead and create a new template. All that I really need to do at this point is give the template a name. In this case, I'm going to call it Retainer Letter. You can see it's already been put into the template group that I had selected and just created, the Temp Training group. This is going to be a document. However, you are actually able to generate or create rather email templates as well. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to look at that today, but certainly really powerful and handy feature if you're sending the same emails over and over again to your clients. You may wish to create an email template as well. I do have the option to restrict this template to certain people. So if there's only certain firm members that should be generating retainer letters, I can in fact restrict this particular template to just these people. But in this case, I'm going to leave it open so that everyone is able to generate the template. We'll click Create Template, and you can see Word is again going to open up. But this time, we're going to be creating the template. So you can see we have a blank canvas here. Just in case it does occur, if you do get a security warning, you will, of course, need to enable the content for document assembly to work. And I do recommend making this a trusted document. Just saves time later on down the road. And here we have a blank canvas. Let's go ahead and create our rudimentary template here. And because we're working in Word, we are in complete control over the style and formatting. So I can go ahead and make the font a lot larger. I can change the font color. I can change the font. I can play around with margins, indentations, underline, bold, what have you. So I'm in full control over the style and formatting of this letter. But in this case, let's go ahead and just assume this will suffice. Now, you'll notice that I left some spaces, notably after dear or after the or a place where we would put in the file name as well as the responsible lawyer on that file. And here we're going to start adding our placeholders. And this is going to tell Amicus where to pull information out of Amicus and where to place it into the template. Now, you'll recall earlier when we were looking at setting up document assembly, we added some toolbars. And here we have, under add-ins rather, our first toolbar. And again, this will be under add-ins. And the button that we're looking for is the Select Fields button. Depending on what version of Amicus or Word that you're using, the buttons might look slightly different. However, you'll find them under add-ins and it will always say Select Fields. If I click on Select Fields, Amicus is going to bring up a Select Field box where I can go ahead and start putting in my placeholders. Now the placeholders are organized by category, and that's because there's a large amount of information that you can pull out of Amicus. So just to keep the list a little bit more organized, we've broken them down into categories. These categories run the gamut between people basic information and other areas revolving around contact information, as well as file information, and then finally firm information. We're going to start with people basic information because that's where we're going to find the contact's name and contact details. In this case, we're just looking for either full name or first name. Simply select and click Insert, or just double click on first name and Amicus will insert it for you. Or rather, in this case, Word will insert it for you. And now we can see in the background, we have dear and then people underscore first underscore name. Now I can still go ahead and make any formatting changes. I just added a comma there. But let's move on to the next placeholder, which will be our file name. That's probably not going to be under people basic information. That would be under file basic information. And under file basic information, we have either short field name or full matter name. Most firms will, of course, be using short file names across the board. For those of you that are maybe not familiar with full matter name, Amicus does give you the option to put in a more formal name for the file. Perhaps we use short file name for internal purposes, and we use full matter name when we're submitting documents to either the client or to the court. But in this case, we're going to select short file name. And you can see in the background again, file underscore short underscore file underscore name. We're going to stay in file basic information because now we want to put in the responsible lawyer for that particular file. So that means that even if I generate the document, If I'm not the responsible lawyer on that file, Amicus will go ahead and put in the responsible lawyer for that file. Scrolling down to the bottom of the screen, we have the responsible lawyer, and we can go ahead and put that in. A quick tip, there is also a placeholder for the date. So rather than having to put in the date every time we generate documents, we can go ahead and have Amicus put that in for us. Now, date is a little bit different from the placeholders that we've just seen. The placeholders that we've added so far have related to either people or file information. Date really isn't tied to either of those. Date is actually located in our last category called firm information. We had to put it somewhere, so they put it into firm information, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom of the list, we have today's date. And then select insert. So here we have an admittedly pretty basic retainer letter, but let's go ahead and see what this would look like when we generate our template. The last thing we do need to do is, of course, save the template. Now, a very important note, when you are authoring or editing templates in your respective word processors, please select save rather than save as. Amicus has already placed the template in the appropriate folder. If you recall, it's that folder that's accessible to everyone that we specified in our preferences. We do not want to change the position or location of the document template. We want it to save where everyone can access it. So we'll simply click save rather than save as. And we'll go ahead and click close. Close, and let's have a look at what that looks like. We'll go back to our people module, and we still have Janet Bailey selected. Let's just use her as an example. Again, right click, generate document. There's our new temp training document template category. And if I expand that, there is our new template ready to go. Click OK. Word will open. And here we have our generated document. So we can see we have the date, we have Janet's first name, we have Janet's file, as well as the responsible lawyer on that file. Now, this is a generated document, which means that any changes we make at this point is not going to impact the file, the template file rather. So for example, if I know that Janet prefers things a little bit larger, I can go ahead and increase the font size. Again, this is not going to impact subsequent generations of the retainer letter template that we've created. This is just for this particular document. Now, let's say that we have a template that we have been using in the past, and we want to incorporate that template into Amicus Attorney's document assembly functionality. On my desktop, I have a document, a Word document called Default Retainer Letter. And here you can see we have a retainer letter, much nicer looking than the retainer letter that we just drafted. Right. And you'll notice, of course, there are a significant amount of highlights. In the past, anytime we sent out this letter, we would have to manually change any of these areas that are in yellow, because this information, of course, is either client or file specific. Okay. And of course, we needed to be very vigilant to ensure that we did change every single field, and we wanted to ensure, of course, that we didn't have any typos. What we can do is simply select the entire document, Control-C to copy, and then we can go ahead and close. Go back into Amicus Attorney, back into Merge Templates, and let's go ahead and modify the template that we just created to incorporate what is in fact our actual retainer letter. So you can edit these templates after you've created them simply by going in, selecting the appropriate template that you'd like to make changes to, and then clicking Edit. Click Edit Template. There's our template that we were working on before. we're going to delete all of that and simply paste in our existing retainer letter. Now again, we need to replace all of these areas that are highlighted with placeholders. Simply select the area you wish to change or replace with a placeholder, add-ins, select field, and then choose the appropriate category and choose the appropriate placeholder. So you can see I double-clicked full name, it's replaced Harold blank with people_full_name. And I would simply go through my template. Remember, this is just a one-time thing. You don't have to do this every time, of course, and replace those different areas with the relevant placeholder. Right. It does take some getting used to, of course, finding the different placeholders, right? Remember, it's roughly broken down into people information or file information. And once you get the hang of it, it really does become quite easy. Remember that date is kind of an outlier, and that's under firm information. All the way at the bottom, today's date. Now, an advanced function of document assembly is the ability to bring over custom information on either the file or the contact. You'll notice that we have two fields here, registered company name and federal tax number. These are, in fact, custom fields that we've built out onto our files where we wanted to be able to have a designated spot to capture this information. We're going to go ahead and select registered company name because we want Amicus to pull that information automatically. Back up to our select field box, we are going to choose file custom information. Now, for those of you that are using custom fields or custom pages in Amicus, you'll know that these custom pages are tied to a specific file type. So now we have an additional step where we have to tell Word which file type we're interested in. In this case, we're going to choose litigation. Here are all of our custom fields that we've built out in Amicus Attorney. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, we have registered corporate name, insert. And the same goes for federal tax number. That's a little bit higher up here, federal tax number. That's it for now. Of course, if we were doing this properly, we would of course change all of the areas in yellow with the appropriate placeholder. But for now, let's just go ahead and remember, we only want to save our templates. We do not want to click Save As. And go ahead and close. Close. Back into our files. We'll use the Bailey-Kipling file again as an example and simply right-click, generate document, retainer letter, and here we have our generated document, complete with Janet's information, the date, her file, as well as the registered company name from Janet's file, Panamania Corp., as well as the federal tax number that we also have in our custom page. A box that you've probably noticed at a couple of stages today is the Amicus Save option. So we do have the option once we generate a document to choose the appropriate action thereafter. We have a couple of options. We can save and add to Amicus, save and do not add to Amicus, so essentially just saving this as a Word document, and that's that, and do not save or do not add to Amicus, or simply clicking cancel. In this case, let's go ahead and select Save and Add to Amicus. Now we still do need to save this document, and we're going to go ahead and save it to the appropriate place on our server where we as a firm rather are storing our documents. So we have a folder here for Bailey-Kipling, and we'll call this updated retainer letter. Save. And the last thing we need to do is, if we wanted to, we could provide a summary. right? Or simply just click OK. And this document will now be available on the Bailey Reed Kipling file. So if I return to Amicus Attorney, open up the Bailey Reed Kipling file, Documents, here we have our document that we just generated. In case anyone's wondering, of course, we would probably want to remove the highlights as well if we are going to be moving forward with this document template. Another point to point out, in addition to being able to make any formatting changes, so font size, font color, font, etc., you're also able to put in graphics. So for example, your firm's logo can also be incorporated into your templates. Now that's all the time that we have for today. And that wraps up this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that you found this session informative and useful. If you have any questions about this webinar or need information on future webinars, please visit www.abacusnext.com/webinars. In addition to these webinars, we do offer a variety of interactive online courses taught by our professional in-house training team. More information is also available on our website. And indeed, I do want to quickly point out before we open up the floor to questions, that, as I said, on our website, you can, of course, book training. That's done by going over to abacusnext.com, selecting More, Schedule Training and Upgrades, selecting Amicus Attorney, and Training. We offer training in 1 hour or 2 hour blocks. 1 hour is enough for document assembly, and you can see it's listed here. And in that 1 hour, we will work with you to create a couple of templates. We can also, if there is any interest, look at email templates. So it's something I touched upon a little bit today, where you can do basically what we did today for our retainer letter, but we can automate emails as well. A really handy feature if your firm, like many firms, sends the same email to clients over and over again. Rather than having to fill in the spots or fill in the blanks as one would normally do, we can have Amicus do all that heavy lifting for us. All right, and I'd certainly like to open up the floor at this point to questions. A reminder that you can ask those questions via the GoToWebinar panel. It might be on the right side of your screen. And I do see a couple of questions in here, so let's jump right in. The first question, can I schedule documents for new files? Yes, absolutely. For those of you that are familiar with the new file intake process in Amicus Attorney, which dictates how or what information Amicus requires when it creates a new file, you do need to be an Amicus administrator to do so. But new file intake management, you are able to leverage what are called action items. And from here, we can go ahead and select Edit, and we can actually select to generate a document to this client. So if we wanted to automatically generate a retainer letter, for example, when we're creating new files, we can go ahead and select our retainer letter, make it required, and thereafter, every time we create a new file, we will be asked to generate a retainer letter for that particular file. Again, that is under, one second here, that is under New File Intake Management. And again, this is only accessible to Amicus administrators. The next question, can I make a copy of a template? Excellent question. That's actually definitely possible if we return to our merge templates. And whereas before we selected retainer letter and we selected edit, you'll notice that if I have retainer letter selected and select new template, Amicus will ask us if we wish to create a new template based on the selected one. Essentially, Amicus will copy that template, and then you'll be making changes to that new template that you've just copied. So you can keep your old or existing templates and simply make a copy of that and make any changes that you need to as needed. Again, not exactly terribly easy to find, but simply selecting the template and select new template. If you do not have a template currently selected and select new template, of course, Amicus will create a brand new, completely blank template. The next question, how and where do we insert the company logo? So that's actually done during the template authoring stage, right? And because you are going to be editing the template in Word, we can just imagine that this template was not, or this logo rather, was not there. Same as you would add any graphic to a Word document. I believe I have the logo right here. So you simply just drag and drop. The next question, is there a way to generate several documents at once using that action item? Unfortunately, there is not. Currently, the only one document can be set to generate when you create the new file. So that's actually not a bad suggestion for our development team, and one that I'll definitely pass along, where we'd be able to generate multiple documents at once, but unfortunately, you only are able to select the one document template to be generated. All right, I think that answered all of the questions that I've seen. I'll just give you a few moments to put in any last minute questions. Of course, if you do think of a question later on today that you wish you had asked, you can always reach us at our email address, training@abacusnext.com. Again, training@abacusnext.com. And we're always very happy to receive those questions, and we will certainly endeavor to answer them. Just while we're waiting for some questions to come in, also wanted to quickly point out that we do have a pretty exciting event on the horizon. It's called Abacus Maximus, and it is our first solo, as it were, user conference. It's going to be held in sunny Las Vegas in July. If you head on over to www.abacusmaximus.com for more information. And we're looking at 2 fun-filled and action-packed days. We're going to have a number of keynote speakers, trainings, breakout sessions, as well as exhibitor halls. And we certainly do hope to see you there. Again, that website is abacusmaximus.com. All right, so that wraps up things for today. I'd like to thank everyone again for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.